What it is, baby. It's another episode. Monday. Live. Got a special guest for y'all today.
Gotta be perfect, you just gotta get started. Don't overthink it. Just go where your heart is, turn your dreams and your goals. Let your goals shape how you live. Success is inevitable if you're willing to become someone new, to be the true you. Never be afraid to do you in front of the critics, sideline judges, non-believers, people holding their grudges. Appreciate the hate. It comes when your wife making the money. Unstoppable from the beginning. Your excuses are use. Let your actions be part of the solution. And watch the income it produces. Recognize greatness in revelation. Years of blood, sweat, and tears of a life sensation. Can't do it alone. I should have said this first. Teamwork. Always the dream work.
You already know what it is. It's another episode of You Don't Have to Be. And we got a special guest for y'all today. And it was important that we brought this gentleman out into the summertime. You know, the heat's about to hit.
Oh, yeah.
And you run a business that's essential to helping kids, really reach their next goal. Most people think about coaching,
Pros.
but people don't think about how important it is to have referees at games. So I'd love for you to talk about what your business is, first of all, and how'd you get into it?
Our business is, I have a partner, first off, Ernesto Lopez. He's going to be here tonight. But it's called ABOA, Allentown Basketball Officials Academy. What we do is we focus on training new and younger officials that are interested in becoming officials. And then we have a media job placement. We're losing a lot of referees. I'm going to say approximately we lost 110 referees in the past 5 years due to their reasonings, whether it's parent conflicts, player conflicts, coaching conflicts. A lot of guys are deciding to step away from it. So what we're trying to do is get younger guys or gals to, maybe look into officiating, train them. And then, like I said, we provide the immediate job placement for these guys. And then we go from there.
And I love it, right? Shout out to, Mr. Guzman, great guy, So first of all, I love that it's a party. So two gentlemen decided we're gonna come together,
yes,
and make a difference.
Yes.
And why did you feel it was important for you to make a difference? I know we're losing referees, but anyone could have just let it go.
We've seen, like I said, we've seen opportunity with, like I said, younger former players who didn't really have anything going on. So guys were asking us, well, how do you get in officiating? How do you get in officiating? We kept getting, questions and texts all the time, me and Ernesto. So we decided, we came in and say, listen, why don't we look into maybe training our guys? And shout out to Ernesto. He came in with the actual name, Allentown Basketball Officials Academy. And then we had our first 10 guys came out. That was 5 years ago. And some of those guys doing varsity games at the varsity level, like making a decent amount of money and, giving back to the game. So
And I love it because it's an opportunity for people who love the game to stay connected, right?
Exactly.
Why are referees so important?
If you think about it, any game you watch at any level, girls, boys, pros, college, high school, recreational, the 2 or 3 most important people there, I shouldn't say important, but are a necessity, are officials. You can't have games without referees. So
I want to park there, right? I think people realize how important what you're doing. We can't have official games without officials, right? Without referees. So you're providing such a necessary service, for kids that are looking to express themselves in a positive manner,
Yes.
right? So I love that you said that. So I didn't want to. I didn't want
Cut
to.
me off whenever you want, Paz, man. It's your
know.
show, man.
it's,
You go ahead, man.
no, I wanted because that's so important,
Yes.
right? Because a lot of people, when we think about sports,
Mm-hmm.
we think about the athlete, right? We think about the coach, we think about the trainer, but we don't realize that the game doesn't start until somebody can official a game.
Yes.
So losing 125 referees is dangerous to our community, right? Because that's less games that can be officiated.
And it's outworking us officials that we have to pick up a bigger load of games now because we have less officials. To where we have more officials, they can pick up some more load of the games, and us older officials don't. Our bodies don't break down faster than they normally would if we had other officials to do those lower level games that first start. So there's a lot entailed with that. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's we and if you think about the population bigger, we're having more leagues. There's more tournaments going on. I mean, at a high rate now, to where I'm getting calls every week to assign tournaments and leagues, and it's at a point where I'm running out of referees, and I got guys doing 6 games in a day, and they're
That's
over their thing to where if I had other guys, I could break it in threes.
that's dangerous, right?
Could be.
When guys are because people don't realize that you guys got to be in pretty decent shape too. You know, the referee. You know, you don't get to just stand in one space, huh?
Well, that's the thing we try to teach our younger officials and or any official who's becoming new. It does entail running, and the guys who don't run are the ones that we have the issues with. So, but on the other hand, doing 6 games, sometimes it gets to a point where, hey, listen, we'd rather people out there than have nobody at all. But then that's not fair to the players, coaches, parents who drive hard to pay all the money for their kids to play. Just isn't fair. So we are trying to get more so that we can have more fresh bodies to be able to do these games, so we can have lighter loads and everybody hopefully is happy.
And I love it. I love that you're providing a service that provides a solution, right? And that's so important because most people, when we start a business, we just start a business, right? And wonder why we fail. Most businesses fail because we don't solve a problem, right? You're immediately a problem, a need in our community,
Yes.
right? And what's so important is, sports for a lot of kids, maybe their only way out.
Yes,
Right?
definitely.
We've seen sports transform the lives of people, right, who
Yes.
were in poverty.
Yes.
More recently, right, just from our city, right, we watched the young man sign his long-term NBA
Yeah,
contract.
congrats. Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Shout
man.
out to Tyrese.
Yeah, man. Anything's possible.
Right? Anything is possible, but none of those things are possible, right, without referees. And that's such a simple thing, but so complex at the same time because it's easily missed,
Yes.
right? It's easily missed that we need more reps, right? And I love that you're talking about getting younger people involved. Why do you think it's so important to get younger reps involved, younger kids involved? It actually, one question before that is, how old can you be to start refereeing?
Well, they just passed. I want to say in the past couple of years, it's called a junior license, where officials, boys or girls, can be 16 years old. With that being said, they would be working middle school, low level games with a seasoned other official. Now, those games are, a double header is what they're called. They're, like 87, $90 for a 16-year-old 3 or 4 days a week. I mean, so to work 2 hours a day. I mean, so that's what we're trying to also let the guys know that, you know, not only are you learning a new trade that you can have. There's referees that are 50, 60, 70 years old. I wish I would have started younger, but I didn't, which is fine. But yeah, the younger, sometimes the better, because, like I said, you have more years. You have more years to learn than if they want to pursue. There's avenues to pursue college. There's avenues to pursue the pro level. There's all kind of different levels to officiate. Um, so that's what we tell these guys also. But they got to put work in also.
You got to start somewhere.
You have to practice. You trade like anybody.
And I love that you talk about there's a professional level to being an official, right? Because you know at the NBA level, at the NFL level, these guys are making six figures to officiate.
Yes,
So you
definitely.
can make a real living, right? A comfortable living, right? Being an official
Yeah.
if you are dedicated to the craft.
Yes.
So
Oh my God, yes.
I love that you're opening up doors for people to think outside the box.
Yes.
But you guys are doing more than just that. I want
Yeah.
to come back to the official thing because I don't want to leave it alone. But you're also opening up areas for gentlemen over 40 to play sports this season. You got a sports league.
Yeah, that's separate from our ABOA brand that we do. That's for average adults who basketball kind of passed them by. So, but yet they still want to play. So we have a setting of teams who come on a Sunday, and it's great. It's great for the guys. They compete, and then I use that for some of my newer officials to work with me, and I train them in those games.
And that's why I brought that up. So that's a great way for those guys to get experience, learn the craft
Yes.
in a comfortable setting.
Yes.
Right, because it's competitive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
But the gentlemen aren't going to bite their heads off like the parents might do later on.
Exactly. Good point. Good point.
So I love that you came up with a not only a program to train them, which is amazing, but a comfortable space for them to be able to continue to hone their craft. That's commendable. You know what I mean? Because that's not something that most people think about. And I know you were going to tell me they were separate, and they are. But I love that because when we talk about residual income, we talk about multiple income streams, right?
There you go.
You were able to make two things work as one, and you brought two different friend groups together.
Yes.
Right? Because those are you have two amazing men working with you on both partnerships.
Oh yeah, Chuck Rockmore, shout out to Chuck Rockmore, my partner with Average Joe's, great guy, man, great partner. And like I said, Ernesto Lopez, ABOA, great partner. So yeah, I'm blessed to have great partners. I know they're hard to come by, so that was truly helps.
And people that are dedicated to kids, like Mr. Guzman, and in his day job, is a school assistant principal.
Yeah,
right?
Lopez, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Lopez is
assistant principal at Central, yes.
Yeah. So and then you have Chuck now coaching baseball.
I'm a behavior specialist at Trexler, so we all have
I love that. So hear what these gentlemen are doing. So outside of building real businesses, in our community, they've never taken their foot off of really helping the kids on a day in, day out. And that's so important, and I wanted to, as we were getting closer to the summer coming, the weather's getting warmer, we changed the setting for y'all today so you realize, the weather's getting a little warmer, right? That how important having good outlets for youth are, and ABOA, allows youth to play sports. And those kids that may not be playing the sport, you can start learning the craft. You said now at 16. I thought it was 18. 16. So
now. We changed it because we were so desperate for officials. They went down a couple years. So yeah.
So basically, a high school junior,
senior could do middle school games, and then lower level recreational games like AAU tournaments or like city recreation. So those kind of things.
That's awesome. So they can create that as a summer job for them this summer.
Yes, I mean, yes, and there's like I said, we also assign other tournaments and leagues all over, so it's just a steady flow, and it depends on availability. Also, you know, job scheduling. A middle shift employee, this might not be good for them because games are normally during the week, 6, 7, 8 ish. Weekends could be from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. That's them are the big days, and we're coming into AAU season and summer basketball. So this is a time now that all these younger guys are going to get their opportunities. Juneteenth, city recreation, down the line. So
So I love that he's saying this. So do you have any more training sessions coming up anytime before the summer ends?
I just had one this past Wednesday. I normally post them on Facebook and Instagram a week ahead of time. Um, I'm not sure it's going to get the availability of my gym at my school to see when we're finishing up, but I would like to have one more before the summer actually season begins, because by the summer I'm running tournaments. That's going to be tough. So I'm looking to maybe do one in the next couple weeks. I'll put the information out. I'll give it to you if you want to.
I'll definitely post it for you. So
Great.
I want to make sure that those of you guys who are watching live, and especially those who are going to be watching the replay, right, that you realize that this is the time. If you're looking for an additional income stream, if you're looking for an opportunity
Great
to build a craft, build around a great brotherhood,
great exercise,
exercise, right? All of these things, right, come with, and right, who else wouldn't want to get paid to run, right? And you get paid like cash. You said
80% of everything is.
look, look at that, and 80% of it cash on spot, right? So when you're thinking about what's coming, right? Why not step into you can build on your passion? Because it seems like this is more of a passion for you guys than it's than it's about the money.
I always tell people that, like, some people ref to get paid. I love and I get paid. There's a difference. I love to do it. Some people do it to get paid. I love to do it and I get paid. So that's like an added incentive for me. Which is fine. Some people don't have. That's okay. But I truly love to teach it. I love to do it. I just, yeah.
Well, I definitely know your partner loves to do it. You guys smile while you're repping, but I wanted to go back and not skip over something that you said early. You said you lost a lot of reps due to interactions with parents, coaching, and those kinds of things. What do you think maybe a parent can do or a coach can do that will allow for a more thriving
Great question.
sports community?
First and foremost, like, when we train our referees and talk to our referees, we teach them that this isn't for everybody. They're going to be parents that are going to complain. They're going to be coaches that complain. They're going to be players that complain. That's a given. But in any job, you either good or you can do it or you can't. Like, that's part of it. But what I try to teach them is, sometimes when I'm dealing with a parent or a mother, and a mother's yelling and screaming, like, insanely, my first thought process, I don't insanely scream back. I think a second. I say to myself, this lady probably just got them paying $1,000 for her kid to play AAU. She got to pay $25 to get into these venues. Got to pay for food if it's overnight in the room. On top of dealing with the coach and paying for uniforms, she's frustrated. All that stuff is coming out on us that we have nothing to do with. So I just go over there and just say, ma'am, let it out. I'm here for you. Let it out. Call me every name in the book. But point I'm making is, like I said, it's not for everybody. So we try to teach them how to handle those things. And we have tools, they're called. You use your tools. We don't argue. To get to a point where a parent gets blatantly disrespectful personally, security, can we have her go? I'm not arguing with you. Our tool is for security to take them out. I'm not arguing and fighting with you and getting disrespectful. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna have you removed. Same thing with coaches. Sir, sit down. It doesn't sit down. It's a technical foul. That's a tool that I have. I'm not arguing with you. We're not going back and forth. That's not professional. I'm gonna use my tools. One, if you keep going. Second one, you got to go. That's it. Security in news venues handle those things. So we train everything from the mental aspect of it to positioning and technique. A lot of these former players know what a walk-off is, know what a foul is, but we teach them how to is a presenting for it, a sneak, a certain mechanic that you have to use when you're in a game, those calls, and that's what we teach. So the great thing about former players is they know the game and they know what a walk and double dribble is, but they don't know how to present it the proper way, and that's what we teach.
I love that. I love that you're talking about, understanding positioning, understanding being in a space and really putting players in a place to win, because most of us think after the game is over, after I can't dribble for the coach anymore, after I can't be more, my purpose in the game is over. So I love that you're giving new purpose.
That's what we're trying to change,
right, and new focus, right, to people that didn't know that they can have that, right, that didn't know that was possible, and what I love most about what ABAO is doing is you guys are part of the solution. When I talk about violence in our community, when I talk about situations in our community, one of the things we talk about, what are the solutions?
yes,
Right?
yes,
And we need more people that are thinking about solutions.
yes.
And you guys came up not only with a solution, but a creative way to give people new life.
Yes.
That's impressive.
We've seen some guys grow. We're proud. That's why we keep going with this, because there's guys who are getting better and better. And like I said, at anything you do, as a player, as a coach, you always study and work out on your free time. Same as an official. I watch videos to this day. When I watch a basketball game, I don't even know the last time I actually watched the game. I watch the refs, their mannerisms, how his shirt's tucked in, little things to that T. So just, truly enjoy what we're doing, and we're hoping, like I said, to have this grow. And we're starting, it's getting better, but we're still behind the eight ball a little bit. We need some more of you former players to come out and contact me, and let's get you rolling.
So hear what he said. He still needs you, right? Even though they are building out something amazing, right? Even though things are coming together greatly, right? There's always more, right? Because as you have more reps, right, that also allows you to provide more opportunity.
Well, that's what me and Ernesto do. We also have a bunch of lots of tournaments and leagues that we assign. So that's what we do. We train, and then we have assignments. So we train these guys and give them immediate job placement. Then me and Ernesto will come out and evaluate them the first couple games, give them positive or negative feedback, what they need to work on, and then we assign from there. And it's by availability when they're available, and then we go from there.
Now, how many jobs can you come into, first of all, and get trained and find immediate placement, right? That means immediate placement means you get trained and then you get a job, right? That's money, cash in pocket,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And then you get trained and evaluated so that you can get better, right? You have a brotherhood, right? And so, well, I'll say a family, because there's some sisters in there too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, definitely females, please. Yes, we have some great female officials.
Yes.
We definitely are down female officials. We would love more female officials. Definitely.
You see, and our sisters, right? Especially because we have a growing, growing girls game out here. Like our girls are doing very well. Coming from Allen, coming from some of these other schools, and now, blossoming to college now.
Yes.
So, the girls' game in the Valley is probably the strongest it's ever been.
Yes. Yes,
So,
it's definitely tough.
so having, more sisters out there does help them too, right?
Yes.
You know, because it helps them image wise, right?
Yes.
Right, because we all want to when we're striving, when we're moving, when we're performing, we want to see people that look like us.
Yes.
And I think I think that's so powerful. What you're doing is that you're giving more opportunities to people, that look like the communities that they serve.
Yes.
One of the things that we used to complain about, growing up playing sports, the referees,
Yeah.
they didn't look like us, so a lot of times they didn't understand us. So and that caused tension, technical fouls, and situations that were really just a language barrier. So by you providing an opportunity, you actually allow both the referee and also the athlete to grow.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Appreciate that.
That is definitely amazing. You know what I mean? That is definitely amazing. You know, you know, you know, for us to be able to, you know, be the spark for new opportunities. To be an opportunity for us to share and shape, to be, a catalyst for someone else. No, I thank you.
Appreciate that.
I thank ABOA for what they're doing. I thank, you and Mr. Lopez,
Chuck.
and Chuck, right, for creating such a wide gambit, for these youth to be able to win in our area.
Yes. Yes.
One of the things I always say is poverty is violence. So you're also allowing us to deal with the poverty by providing jobs, right? Your business immediately provides jobs, you know, and that's something, for those, we talk about you don't have to be perfect. Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur. We need workers, right? Not everybody can be a boss. Not everybody's built to be a boss, right? And even when you are a boss, like you said, you also have a job where you work at Trexler.
Yes.
So that means you also do well with taking direction, right?
Shut the criticism. It's not personal. It's just,
So I'm glad that you said that because, a lot of people think, oh, I have a business, so I can't get a job. Because you own a business, do you feel less than when you go to your job?
Not at all. I love my job. I'm helping youth, so I don't have I don't get involved in those things. You know what I mean? I go do my job there. My job is a behavior specialist. I deal with behaviors. I'm not an ABOA director there. I'm not an average Joe director there. I'm from 7 to 3. I'm a behavior specialist. After that is ABOA average Joe all day, and I understand that, and I'm fully okay with that. My principal's great, so you know.
You definitely have a great principal over at Trexler, someone that's very, into being innovative and into creating opportunities and situations for the youth and the community,
Yes.
right? Because in dealing with youth, I think a lot of times we forget, right, that it takes the entire family.
Yes.
Right? It takes the
Yes.
entire family. If even if little Johnny or if little Jenny has an enormous talent, if mom and dad are struggling and suffering, we never get to see how great Johnny or Jenny can be.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I love, that you allow even the parents to find a way to continue to extend themselves through Average Joe's.
Yes.
That Average Joe's is also a training ground, for the
newer
youth.
officials.
And that you've tapped into a way for a long-term career. So And hear me, if you're 16 years old, find this gentleman here or find Mr. Lopez, right? And tell him I want to build a career in sports, right? I want to build a career in sports. And you don't have to be a coach, right? By coming in now at 16 years old, they can teach you how to be a referee. They can then coach you in your refereeing, right? Because you do evaluation,
Yes.
right? So now you get better year by year. And now you can start to get better assignments through the company.
Or also, you're your own business. So me and Ernesto ain't the only two guys that assign things. There's various other assigners that me and Ernesto are really cool with. So we push their names to those guys. Just us. We network their names throughout to everybody. Your income's double, triple. You're your own business. So it's what you want out of it. I wanted to work every could and weekends. The cash was great. The exercise was great. And the brother. So I had no problem with it. But some guys have other, things going on, which is fine. It's never anything personal. What you're available for, we will assign you. So
Now hear this. Now, flexibility. Like I don't want to push past any of these things that he's saying, right? You have a business, even though you're an employee. You have an opportunity, even though you can do great. And then you get to have the flexibility necessary so that you can continue to grow. Right? So say you have a college student, right? Who only has a few hours because of classes.
or just summers only. I have officials who come home summers only. Shout out Tyson Thomas, Julian Thomas. Those guys come as soon as they come home for the summer. That same day, and I give them everything. So
I love that. So you're supporting young college students as
yes,
a way to
definitely.
supplement their income.
For the summer, yes.
That's genius. So you come home, college students, not be playing the game that you love anymore, but you still want to be involved. You need a good way to earn. You need to be around great people. Find him, find Mr. Lopez, and talk to them about what does ABOA training look like. Find out what it looks like for you to be able to get some refereeing under your belt. Find out what it would look like for you to really build your income. So you have so many opportunities. I'm so grateful that we got to start this summer off, these summer months off with you, because there are so many kids that didn't realize that this was an opportunity that was there for them. They're young adults.
There's also we have don't get it twisted. A retired dad, somebody who needs it doesn't have to just be young guys. Also, it could be anybody who's looking to get into officiating. We target the youth, but more or less it's anybody. Maybe a guy, somebody who has more time now that wants to get into officiating. Former player who just got done playing a career in basketball and I wants to get into it. So it tends to, I want to say 16 to 40 age demographic.
I can't say 40 now because some of these, you got gentlemen that I know been referenced since I was little. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Blunt brothers. You know what I mean? Like, who've never given up on being a part of the community. So I love that, as long as you can still mentally and physically participate,
Yes.
you guys don't discriminate based on age.
Not at all.
Right? And ageism is another form of discrimination that we don't think about, because there's some people, like I said, the Blunt brothers are a prime example of, people who've been in this officiating game for I can say most
Yes.
of them 30 years.
They've been in, yes, them the Blunt Brothers, yes, definitely, yes.
You know, so and they're still going strong.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So that's why I said if you're 16, you could say I want to build a career in officiating. Because I'm not gonna say how old our elders are,
Yeah.
but they're a little bit older than me, and I started growing some grades, right?
Yeah.
So they've been doing it long enough, right, to be able to say this is not only a career for me, but now I can be a trainer.
Yes. Yes.
And what I love that you said, and I didn't want to pass past that you also were great, the holes of officiating, right? Right? And you can allow them to grow, prosper, and go where they
Yes, man.
where they need to be.
Like shout out to Buddy Bolton. Buddy Bolton was one of our first guys we trained, and he's doing varsity games now. I mean, and it's such a he don't go on Facebook saying that. We see him and we look and we're proud. Wow, man! Like look at Buddy, and not just because of us. Buddy also worked also on his craft. So it wasn't just we taught him. He went home and sat around. No, he looked at videos. He went to watch games and watched officials and got better and forced his way in there. So now he's doing varsity games in his like what 4th year. So I mean, opportunities are there.
I love that. The opportunities are there if you work for them, and that you're providing a platform and a ramp for people to actually get on, So as you play ball yourself,
Yeah, Daryl 94. Mm-hmm.
right? So when you left basketball as a ball player, did you think, hey, refereeing is going to be it?
No,
How'd you actually get into refereeing?
it's funny. That's a great question. I was working for City Recreation doing tables, the flip board and a timer. They were paying us at the time. It was $15 a game. The referees came in. Older gentlemen, I'm sure didn't really want to be there, but with the needs for officials, they were there. Shout out to them guys anyway. They try whatever. So I'm sitting there doing a flipboard and timer, and I'm like, I can do this, or whatever. I can do this. Um, the next week, the supervisor from City Recreation said, "Hey, Mike, can you do me a favor? The referees I got to make, can you fill in?" So I had to fill in on the fly, no experience, no anything. But I knew the community from working at the school, so I had a level of respect before anything, even the game even went off. So that helped. That's why I tell these guys, they know you. That helps. Guys in the community, they know you. That definitely helps. And I did it, and I loved it. I was like, wow, this is. And the pay was 30 instead of 15 at the time. So I'm like, okay, that helps too, So and then I did games little by little, and then I'm just competitive, and I just wanted to be better. I wanted to get really good, and I went to different camps. Me and Ernesto went to college camps, went to high school camps. We invested in ourselves. Don't it was we had to pay a little bit of money for these things, but we got it all back and way more. But it was the best thing we've ever done with those trainings. And then we figured, you know what? Why don't we bring this back to our community? They can invest a little bit and make a lot of it. So that's how we decided to get into the training part of it. And then, between guys asking us, oh man, how'd you get into this? How can I be a ref? We started ABOA.
I love what you said, and I don't want to pass that, right? Because a lot of people don't realize when building a business, sometimes it takes a little investment into yourself, into your product, into your personal development.
Nice investment.
You know what I mean? And you said you did some investment into your personal development, so that you can grow into first being the ref you wanted to be, then to be the trainer you wanted to be.
Yes.
And I think that's so important, right? You don't have to be perfect, but you have to get started, right? And for him getting started was,
pay for hotel rooms, the fees for the camp, room and board, like food, everything, for just a weekend, for like tryouts, and then it is what it is. And we, like I said, we got better. We started getting more assignments, and then that's when everything started. It was actually the best investment I think that we made. So.
And I love that you say that, right? Because an investment into yourself, right, is always going to be the best investment anyone can make. And for you to feel that way, because every business is different, and you've learned not only how to work for the business, right? Now you're working on the business, right? Because you've done the trainings, you've gone through training. You and Mr. Lopez have been. Yeah, I've been repping probably at least 20 years. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I've been yelling at you for 15.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those obnoxious parents. So I know what he's talking.
Heritage Championship. I heard you. But yeah.
I know I'm terrible. I know they're so glad that my kids are now grown, right? Because I'm one. I'm one of those parents that know the game too well. That study too much, so every call is wrong. So.
But that's fine as long as you can always argue a referee's call. You can always agree with his call, But when you make a personal attack on an official, that's when you have to go. You know what I mean? But you never really made personal attacks. You just question calls all the time. But other than that, it was all good, man.
Yeah, man. It wasn't personal.
Glad you ain't around no more. But
yeah, I know y'all.
Doing this. I'm glad you're doing this right now, man. It fits you.
Yeah, I know you guys are definitely glad that my kids are grown. But it's but I'm grateful, right? For you and Mr. Lopez, like to not only hone your craft enough to stay in the game, but hone your craft enough so that you're training people so that they can enter the game and continue to, build a long legacy.
And we have an open phone policy. Me and Ernesto, they have our number. Anything ever happens in the game afterwards, they can always call, hey, Mike, this situation happened. Did I handle this right or not? And we're always there. We answer questions, and we actually love that when they give us that they care. So that's another thing. So
I tell you guys, this was a powerful, powerful conversation, because when you start thinking about opportunity, change, catalyst, right? We don't always think about how we can stay involved in something, right? It's easy to quit. These gentlemen have decided to stay involved in the game and not only be involved in the game, but now be a major part of the solution. I want people to think about as you're listening to, Mike's story, what solutions can you help create? How can you be a part of a difference? Because we all can do something that may seem minor to others, but this is major, right? This somebody may have thought this was a minor business. Oh, you start. You may have heard somebody say it to you before. You start your little referee business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is major, right?
Yeah.
Because you're creating
It's all
opportunities,
about.
right, for others to find their way. You're creating opportunities for youth to be able to continue to play sports. And now you're also creating opportunities, for guys over 40 who don't have knees like me, to try to continue. See, I'm still going. Now I just yell from the sidelines because my kids are getting older. They're going to soon be able to age into his new league, right? Then he's going to have to see me again. Ah, ref.
Yeah, we have fall and spring leagues
Yeah.
for our league. It's not really 40 and over that we promote it more as an average Joe
Yes.
tournament. So just average guys that like want to come and compete. Like me and Chuck always said it, and it's known that two major things with adults are mental health and boredom. So what we try to do is take the boredom part of it and have them come compete with each other, build that brotherhood. Everybody, get to see the guys because a lot of these guys are married, have jobs, they don't, kids. So that one Sunday, that hour or two, to be able to just be with the fellas, no wives, no kids, just them, I feel means a lot. So we're gonna, continue to do that also. So you want to come up, we're over at Trexler,
Yeah.
9:30 to 2:30 every Sunday.
And 9:30 to 2:30 every Sunday, come out and watch these gentlemen. They're doing some great, great things. And I love that you talked about that. One of the things I always say is idle minds cause trouble,
Yes.
right? So, even as we get older, right? We become our trouble now becomes self-destructive as we become older. When we're younger, we'll destroy property. When we're older, we become depressed, more suicidal. Because idle minds cause trouble.
Yes.
So I love that you're giving people of all ages an opportunity to truly express themselves, relieve some stress, and really just enjoy.
Get away from the wife for a little while, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah, I love it. And I told you this hour goes by quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You were right.
It goes by even faster. We have like 9 minutes left. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So I want to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Okay.
That's important that people know that's coming up, that you're involved in, that where they can find either ABOA or anything that you're connected to right now.
Well, we just, like I said, we're looking to have another camp for ABOA. And you can always find me on Facebook on my messenger, or you could hit me on Pina.com, Pina.michael@yahoo.com/ABOA. You can leave me a message on that also. You can even hit my guy up here. He'd always get me the message. Or if you see me in the community, always remember we're looking for officials and we can start from scratch. So a lot of opportunities are coming this summer. So we definitely need some new officials.
And I think that's so important. So, I'm not going to just say young people, even though that's where my heart is. So I'm going to start with young people, right? But anyone that's interested or still love the game and want to be a part of the solution, please, find Mike, find, Mr. Lopez, even though he's around my age, he's still going to always be Mr. Lopez because he's one of my kids' teacher, so you always got to make sure that you teach the kids respect by giving respect.
Yes.
So, we lead by example. So find Mr. Lopez, Ernesto, find Mike, and say, I want to be involved, right? It only, anything can happen from there. There's so many opportunities right now. Summertime is coming. So there are a lot of tournaments, like you said, this AAU season.
Yes.
Um,
Weekend trips, guys can go away. up the Spooky Nook facility for a whole weekend and do games all weekend and make a substantial amount of money for 2 days, stay out there, get a room. I mean, there's just so many opportunities now with summertime, with AAU, summer basketball. So this is a hot time to if you're looking to get involved, this is the perfect time.
And I love that. So if you need a summer income, for students coming home from college, and you're thinking about how do I, create a substantial summer income, while still making a difference, you can become a referee. Like they said, they connect you not just with their games, but with, other people that are doing it. Say you want to do it 5 days a week. I know they'll help you get 5 days a week. They'll figure it out.
Available.
If you're available, it's available, especially during the summertime.
Yes.
So I love that. And then you guys are creating your own leagues that allow people to continue to create, new jobs, and opportunities that way. So, and if you're looking for good refs, right?
Contact
Also,
myself,
right?
Ernesto, yes.
If you're looking for good referees for a tournament you may be thinking about doing, or a league you may think about hosting, ABOA is, not only training good people, they're checking on their staff to make sure they're giving you great service. I don't know too many referee companies that say I'm gonna come check on a staff. You know what I mean? I think he got tired of me yelling at other refs for like 20 years. It's like and he was my favorite ref to yell at. I ain't gonna lie. Like, he was definitely my favorite. Him or shout out to Big Mike. Definitely my favorite refs to yell at when they were refereeing my son's game. And for these guys, him and Mr. Lopez to stay in it long enough, to create a business is first of all monumental, and second of all essential. So those are two things. And for you to say you weren't perfect, right? You had to spend some money to get to learn your craft.
Oh yeah. Messed up games to learn. That whole thing with this. Yeah, it's
You
definitely
mean
worth it.
and for someone right now that think they gotta be the perfect ref, he's been doing it for 30 years. He still stinks. No, I'm just teasing. No, he's you don't have to be perfect to be a ref, but you do need to be fair, right?
Know the rules.
Know the rule.
Know that your area responsible for mechanics.
All right. Now you hear it. Fair. Know the rules. Know the area, and know the proper mechanics. And I love that you talk about having some connection to community health.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of it, like I said, yelling at Big Mike was different because I knew Big Mike.
Yeah.
So, he can talk to me in a different way than other refs could because we had a real relationship.
Personally.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think getting people from community to ref allows those kinds of things, and I think it diffuses situations, right? Because you may have known this young man, or you may have known this person, from whatever you may have, and it's not personal against your kids, Even though I did want to egg Big Mike's car a couple times,
A lot of people did. Yeah.
I knew it wasn't personal against my son.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you're talking about these types of opportunities, because they're so important. Is there, as we wrap up, because
Yes.
we, man, literally 4 minutes before we say our personal manifesto. Before we say our personal manifesto, together. I want, if there's someone right now that's watching this and they're thinking, can I be a ref? Should I be a ref? What would you say to them right now, knowing that ABOA is here?
Even if you're thinking about it, that's a thought. Contact me, Ernesto, and we'll talk to you about it, and then you'll be able to decide if it's good for you or if it's not. But have a conversation with us first if you're even thinking about it. We'll go through everything with you, and then we'll go from there.
And I love it. And this is not gender biased, right?
No,
So
my God, no.
you know, our sisters, if you
Please.
want to run around, you know, there are professional women refs,
Oh,
you know, in
good
every
ones.
league, right? In the NBA, in the NFL,
College, everywhere.
there are you know, if you perfect your craft, you can be in a space where you're making 5 and 6 figures as a referee if you get in early enough, right? And ABOA is a way for you to get in early enough.
Yes.
You know, so I definitely am excited that you were here. You know, I'm excited that to have this conversation. You know, please excuse, excuse any background noise you may have heard as they invaded our studio space. You know what I mean?
Kids, man, you know how they are. It's all
Yeah,
good.
but we love it. You know, couldn't be upset because we love the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's just who we are as people. You know, so before we sign off, I'd like for you to do what we've done with every guest, right? And say our personal manifesto with us. So I'm going to say my personal manifesto for you straight through, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat it. So my personal manifesto goes like this. I love me. I'm worthy. Some people may not like me, but I don't care because the people that matter will be glad that I'm here.
Ooh, that's tough to follow.
All right, so we're going to say it. I love me.
I love me.
I'm worthy.
I'm worthy.
Some people may not like me.
Some people may not like me.
But I don't care.
But I don't care.
Because the people that matter.
Because the people that matter.
Will be glad that I'm here.
Will be glad that I'm here.
And we are glad that you spent the time with us, Mike. We are glad that you talked to us about ABOA. We're glad that you shared about Average Joes. We're glad that you created a pipeline for young people and anyone that's truly in love with the game to find a way back to their passion. We're glad that you are part of the solution. And more importantly, we are glad that you didn't have to be perfect, but you decided to get started. You know?
My God. Appreciate
My God.
you.
So we have an amazing guest next week. Got some surprises. So make sure you pay attention online.
Tune in.
You know, tune in. But until then, you know, this is You Don't Have to Be Perfect. And please learn how to be a referee. We need more of you guys out there. Because without you, we can't